Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because things got heated on The View once again. This time, it was Sunny Hostin who completely lost her cool when some of her co-hosts admitted the hard truth: DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, isn't working as intended. The moment Pete Buttigieg's comments about DEI potentially driving more voters toward Trump came up, Hostin went into full defense mode. She was so rattled that she even started justifying hiring practices that many argue are unfair and discriminatory. The discussion quickly spiraled into a fiery exchange, proving once again that The View never shies away from controversy. Before we dive into the chaos, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps get my content out to more people and keeps you updated on all the latest drama. Now, let's get right into Sunny Hostin's explosive reaction as the panel debates whether DEI is actually backfiring. Watch for yourself. This is one debate you don't want to miss.
What do we mean when we talk about diversity? Is it caring for people's different experiences and making sure no one's mistreated because of them, which I will always fight for? Or is it making people sit through a training that looks like something out of Portlandia, which I have also experienced, and it is how Trump Republicans are made, if that comes to your workplace with the best of intentions, but doesn't actually get at what actually matters here, what's actually at stake.
So do you agree with him that DEI initiatives drove voters to Trump? And what else can be done to make sure everyone is represented on an even playing field?
You know what I think,
What do you think, Sunny?
I like Pete, of course, but I think he got that so wrong, and I think it was so tone deaf, considering
Which
what's
part?
going on. All of it. I thought all of it was tone deaf.
This is classic Sunny. Anytime someone from her own camp dares to deviate even slightly from the party script, she completely loses it. We've seen it before. When they brought on John Fetterman, when Stephen A. Smith made an appearance, when Ruben Gallego, or even Eric Adams sat down at the table, she always assumes they'll blindly parrot her talking points. And when they don't, cue the meltdown. And let's talk about that moment, when she dramatically asked, "Do you want to know what I think?" And Joy, ever the enabler, responded, "What do you think, Sunny?" That's the kind of setup where normally people would lean in expecting something profound. But with Sunny, oh no, it's more like, let her cook, because whatever's coming next is about to be the most ridiculous take you've ever heard. So let's give her the stage, because you already know what's about to happen.
So in my view, when you look at the stats, it is really clear from McKinsey, actually, a consulting firm that Pete used to work for, that firm found that companies with more diversity financially and socially outperform those that are less diverse. So the business case for diversity, equity, and inclusion, it makes sense. And I think we can all agree that we want our workforce to reflect what our world looks like.
I think he does too, though, don't you?
No, I think he does. But my question, really, I think we need to reframe the discussion. If the problem is these programs, what is the solution? Should we just then depend on the benevolence of Elon Musk and white billionaires to hire women and people of color?
No.
Should we just depend on corporations to, on their own, make the workforce more diverse?
No, let's get one thing straight. The only person you truly rely on is yourself. Success comes from becoming so valuable, so skilled, that any company would consider you an undeniable asset. That's what a true meritocracy is about. Being so exceptional at what you do that your worth is unquestionable. Then comes the usual argument. We all want a workforce that reflects the world around us. No, we don't all agree on that. That's an idea pushed by liberal idealists. On the other side, we believe in a workforce built on competence and expertise, where the most qualified people get the job, period, and right on cue, the same overused self-righteous rhetoric gets repeated. Well, when you look at the stats... Oh, you mean the stats conveniently funded by left-leaning NGOs, designed to prop up their agenda? The same ones that told us the economy is thriving, that biological facts are subjective, and that the COVID vaccine would stop transmission until reality proved otherwise. And now, suddenly, the experts insist that diversity quotas magically improve businesses. Let's be real, it's just common sense. The only thing that makes a business successful is hiring the best, most capable individuals, regardless of race, gender, or any other label. And this is where Sarah steps in, cutting through the noise, shutting down the hollow talking points, and calling it what it is. This DEI narrative is nothing more than a sideshow.
The David Axelrod conversation you're talking about was in reference to the DNC winter meeting that happened over a few days, and I just want to show a quick clip of what went down.
You may vote for 2 males, 2 females, 2 of any gender, okay? Nope, you can't do that because we've got to balance. You could vote for 1 of any gender, okay? Or no, non-binary gender, excuse me.
So many people are so frustrated that people are pushing back on DEI that they're not taking a minute to pause that maybe DEI itself needed improvements in its actual application. We're seeing a lot of things. One was New York Times staged fake interviews with diverse candidates. Wells Fargo, the New York Times reported it, sorry, just to be clear. A woman or a person of color, after the position had been filled, to check off their boxes of minority inclusion. That's not helping anyone. So a lot of the problem is that...
But that implies that
Lily
the woman
Zhang
wasn't qualified for the job.
There was no job.
The absolute circus that unfolded at the DNC is starting to make even the Views panelists second guess this whole DEI push. The truth, the Democrats might be too far gone to ever return to reality. And as for Sunny, well, she seems completely oblivious to the irony of it all. Take these so-called inclusive, gender-balanced voting rules at the DNC. They claim to promote fairness, but in reality, they're anything but fair. When you force people to vote for exactly 2 men, 2 women, and 1 non-binary candidate, you're not selecting the best leaders. You're playing quota politics. What if the most qualified candidates all happen to be women, or all men, or all non-binary? By prioritizing a checklist over actual merit, you're shutting out the best talent before they even get a chance. And then came the moment that nearly had me falling out of my chair when Sarah had to spell it out for Sunny. These weren't real jobs, fake interviews, empty titles. It was all for show. But Sunny, as usual, was off in her own fantasy world where reality bends to fit her narrative. It's like she's living in a dreamland with fairy dust swirling around her and some feel-good background music playing in her head. But then came the real kicker. Sunny hit a new record for out-of-touch takes, leaving even Alyssa and Sarah speechless. And trust me, that doesn't happen often. So what do you think? Is this just another example of ideology trumping common sense, or is there a bigger wake-up call coming? Drop your thoughts below. This debate is far from over.
Sonny, you've been asking all day, what are the things?
What's the solution?
So she has solutions. She's saying focus on measurable results like pay equity, physical and psychological safety, holding network events, blind hiring. There are a lot of things that you can
Blind hiring, that makes sense.
Right,
But
the
isn't
point
that
is,
kind of merit-based? Isn't that the whole argument that DEI is against?
well,
is
she
merit-based?
dug in because she studied, she's a consultant on DEI for
is
companies
not
for 10 plus years. And what she's saying is, regardless
Blind
of the
hiring is the opposite of DEI.
No, that's not true. DEI programs make sure that the most qualified candidates, traditionally excluded from opportunity, are given the chance to compete. So this notion somehow that blind hiring could work, I think that's something.
It take the
but it's not
race
about
or identity
merit,
out of
but
it,
it's
and it would
not
be purely based on what you put forward?
But it's not about merit, because the people that are in these DEI programs are already the best of the best.
But she's saying that companies end up
Oh.
doing tokenism rather than helping.
I couldn't help but love that moment at the end when Sunny's face twisted in disbelief, like she suddenly realized the entire panel thought she was completely out of her depth when Alyssa pointed out that blind hiring is the opposite of DEI, and Sunny immediately shot back with, "No, that's not true." I had to wonder, does she actually believe what she's saying? How does she even manage to get dressed in the morning, let alone make it to work at The View? Let's be real, Sunny Hostin might be the most blatant DEI hire in television history. If someone with that level of cluelessness can land a primetime spot on a nationally broadcasted political talk show, it means they passed over millions of far more qualified candidates. But hey, if the only real qualification for being on The View is to have a complete lack of self-awareness, then Sunny might just be the most overqualified person on the planet. Even when she tried to explain her stance, all she did was redefine discrimination in a way that somehow made it sound worse. DEI just gives certain people a chance to compete. Right, so it only gives certain people opportunities while excluding others? That's literally the definition of discrimination. Her logic is so backwards that I'm pretty sure the few brain cells left in her head are questioning whether they're the last one standing. Honestly, I don't know what's more shocking. The fact that The View openly admitted DEI is flawed, or that Sunny Hostin managed to outdo herself in saying something even more ridiculous than usual. And speaking of mind-numbing DEI hires on TV, let's turn our attention to the latest from CNN. CNN, where Jameli Hill, a professional race baiter, actually claimed that Donald Trump hosting a Black History Month celebration at the White House was somehow a direct insult to Black Americans.
He also mentioned at the same time that there were going to be statues of Kobe Bryant and Muhammad Ali. So it just seems a little hypocritical that you would be doing everything in your power to sort of outlaw the teachings of what, say, a Muhammad Ali stood for. Like, are you going to tell people that he stood against war, that he stood against these very progressive civil rights issues? That doesn't seem to be the part of it. And what I noticed there from that clip is that he had to read letter by letter about what these people, what these great Americans have done in terms of progress for our country, because it's not something he's familiar with and not something that is natural for him. So I consider this to be an insult, a slap in the face. And frankly, all the people that attended this, look, I guess God bless you if you've never been to the White House and maybe you looked at it as some kind of great experience. But everything this president has stood for and done in the last decade or so has been a complete rejection of what Black history is.
And there it is, the all too familiar condescending tone from certain Democrats. If stepping into the White House isn't a big deal to you, fine, but let's be real. Shouldn't every American, regardless of background, feel honored to visit the nation's highest office? Yet, here we are again, watching the same cycle of grievance politics play out. Donald Trump hosts an event, invites 300 prominent Black leaders to celebrate Black history, announces plans for a new garden featuring statues of influential Black figures, and somehow, that's offensive? Really? Then, as if that wasn't enough, simply reading biographical notes about these historical figures is twisted into an accusation of racism. Come on, we all know who Rosa Parks and Frederick Douglass are, but how many people can recite their full biographies from memory? Instead of reducing them to a one-liner, Trump took the time to acknowledge their contributions properly, and yet his critics acted like this was some kind of scandal. This is the kind of performative outrage that holds people back. The same voices who claim they're systemically oppressed are the first to reject any recognition if it doesn't fit their narrative. They love to talk about being ignored, yet when given the spotlight, they find a way to be offended by it. Is it any wonder why so many Americans are fed up with this mentality? Who wants to be part of a movement that thrives on negativity and division? The era of identity politics is losing its grip, and people are waking up to the hypocrisy. But of course, let's cue the next panelist, who will no doubt explain why Trump's event was yet another sign that America is irredeemably racist. Watch.
What happened today was a beautiful thing.
So
yeah,
what,
I don't.
So
I
what
think,
do you
I think
don't?
he's trying to gaslight us.
In
I mean,
what
come
way,
on, man.
Solomon?
You have got to be kidding.
So if he
He's
didn't
try-
have it, if he didn't have it today, you would be
he's
back.
Trying,
Honestly, I
he's
would
trying
prefer
to
that he
gaslight us.
You can't say
First,
that.
he said he doesn't want anybody in government to celebrate Black History Month, and then he says, "Okay, I'm going to put on an event about Black History Month, and I'm going to be the speaker." There aren't any Black people, really saying anything about what's happening with him. He tried to use DEI as literally a racial slur against us, as if Black people are benefiting from anything in this country and getting anything we're not qualified for and don't have to work twice as hard for. Black people have to live in the real world. When the cops come, we're scared because we might not come out of it alive. We walk into a store, if they let us in, we're followed around. We don't get loans when we have the same credit score as everybody else because we're Black. We have to live in the real world. You can't gaslight us. We know reality when we see it. This is not real. This is a joke. That's what that is.
Let's take a moment to break this down and fact check everything that was just said. One of the most common narratives from DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion advocates, is that Black individuals must work significantly harder than their white counterparts just to achieve the same level of success. But does that claim hold up when we look at the data? Last year, Harvard University faced a lawsuit over its DEI-based admissions policies, and the Supreme Court ultimately ruled them illegal. So let's take a closer look at the numbers to see whether this system truly disadvantaged white and Asian applicants. If you're in the top 10% of applicants and you're white, your chance of being accepted to Harvard stands at 15.3%. For an Asian applicant in that same category, the likelihood drops to 12.7%. Meanwhile, a Black applicant in the top 10% has a 56% acceptance rate, and for Hispanic applicants, it's 31.3%. Now, let's move to the middle of the pack applicants, those in the 50th percentile. Here's where the disparities become even clearer. White applicants, 2.6% acceptance rate. Asian applicants, 1 91.9% acceptance rate. Black applicants, 22.4% acceptance rate. Hispanic applicants, 99.1% acceptance rate. But the real shocker comes when looking at those below average applicants. A black student in the 40th percentile, well below the top half, still has a 12.8% chance of getting into Harvard. Meanwhile, an Asian student who is in the top 10% of all applicants has a lower chance of admission than a black student who ranks significantly lower academically. These statistics paint a clear picture, which is precisely why the Supreme Court deemed these policies unlawful. And it's not just Harvard. Medical school admissions show similar trends. If you have an MCAT score between 24 and 26, here's how your chances of getting into medical school compare. Black applicants, 56% acceptance rate. White applicants, 8% acceptance rate. Asian applicants, 6% acceptance rate. Now, let's move up the scale. If your MCAT score is between 30 and 32, here are the odds. Black applicants, 94% acceptance rate. Hispanic applicants, 83% acceptance rate. White applicants, 63% acceptance rate. Asian applicants, 58% acceptance rate. That means an Asian applicant with a top-tier MCAT score is still accepted at nearly the same rate as a black applicant with one of the lowest scores. This is the reality of DEI policies in action. Yet, despite these numbers, we constantly hear arguments that contradict the facts. Take the claim that black individuals are disproportionately targeted by police. The reality? More white individuals are killed by law enforcement annually than black individuals. Another popular talking point is that black shoppers face rampant discrimination in retail stores, that they are constantly being watched or even denied entry. But where are these stores that are supposedly banning black customers? It's a narrative designed to instill fear, not reflect reality. And then there's the claim that banks refuse to grant loans to black borrowers who have the same credit scores as white applicants. But banking decisions are far more complex than a simple credit score. Loan approvals go through automated AI-driven underwriting systems. There isn't some banker manually rejecting applications based on the applicant's name. Banks are in the business of making money. If a borrower is low risk and profitable, their loan gets approved. Regardless of race, the reality is many people pushing these arguments are completely detached from the facts. Yet figures like Sunny Hostin and other media panelists continue to fuel these narratives, keeping race-based politics alive and cementing these divisive ideologies as a core part of the Democratic Party's strategy. But what do you think? Are these policies truly about fairness, or have they created a new form of bias? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.